Welcome to the Jada Edwards podcast. Today, I am talking to the amazing Shanterra McBride. Her story will blow you away. So many twists and turns, and you're going to get to see how God shows up in every season of life. Welcome to season 3 of the Jada Edwards podcast. You'll get a little bit of Bible teaching, some great stories, and some great interviews along the way. All right, Shanterra. Okay,
yes,
so background. We might have to do a second episode just on our friendship because we have reached that age where we're like, oh, we have friends that we've known 35 years. So I met Shanterra in 7th grade and just has been a dear friend. We have had the whole roller coaster of friendships where we're talking on the phone every day, and then you have seasons where you don't talk, and then you life and travel and college. We've traveled a lot together and just been really cool to see how after all the girlish things of early life settle down, that as women we are friends, and what God is doing in your life. We've been able to do ministry together a few times. So if you guys who are listening have been with us for a few years, you know she's been at some of our women's conferences, done stuff with our students as well. So anyway, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's about time.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I'm glad you're here.
We're going to try not to giggle too much or cry too much. Like actually.
No promises.
Right. I know. We have tissue. We are prepped. Where'd that tissue go?
I don't know where yours is, but mine is right here.
Oh, Lord. I think it's already bought in my pocket. Let me lay this out. Let me get my tissue out because I don't know what might happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So here is the first question I like to ask people. Like, I want you to try to describe your life in one word. I know. You're like, I need an essay. Oh, my gosh. Oh, by the way, Shanterra is a writer, an author, a speaker. She travels to Morocco randomly to take girls to see the world.
And Peru. And I'm so glad we went because now you can't go to Machu Picchu. It's closed. Yeah. Because
forever?
Of civil unrest there.
Oh.
And so it's,
I bet y'all didn't know that.
Yeah.
Machu Picchu is closed. Take it off your bucket list.
Yeah, please. If you missed it.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you describe your life in one word?
I think, well, of course, being, holy, I want to say Jesus, but
so sanctified.
But I think favor.
Ooh, that's a good word.
I really do, because it ain't nothing in my history that says I should be doing what I'm doing or have gone where I've gone. It is just the favor of the Lord. Seriously.
Okay, that's a great word. Tell me, as you look back over your life, what are some of the major milestone moments where you're like, oh, there was God? I think sometimes we don't even realize God was showing up.
Oh, for sure.
Until 10 years later, you're like, oh, snap.
For sure.
You were showing up. I mean, it would have been great, God, for me to have a 2-parent home or to be with this situation or my parents not be divorced or for us to not be poor. But, oh, my gosh, I see what you did in that. Yeah. So what are some of the major milestone moments you've had?
Well, I think of 3 things. I think of moving to D.C. I think it was I was running, and the Lord totally made a way. Like, I didn't know what was ahead in D.C. I mean, I moved there in 98 when D.C. was supposedly the murder capital of the world. Yeah. I didn't know anybody.
We were opposed.
Yes.
We were scared.
Y'all like
what?
What?
Why?
Because I said it in May and I was gone in August.
Yes.
And y'all
we had no time.
Yeah, no time. And I think the Lord He protected my running and was like, let me show her that there is really something that I want her to do here.
Yeah, like a whole Jonah situation. Where were you running from? Where were you running from?
No, I was running because my ex-boyfriend at the time got engaged. And I felt like I needed to leave. Really, I tried to leave the continent. Right. So I tried to I tried to join the Peace Corps, but the recruiter...
She did try to join the Peace Corps,
yeah. I called and I was like, hey, I'm Shanterra McBride. I would like to go to Kenya. And she was like, what?
Listen, that's a breakup right there. And I don't want the people to take this lightly because y'all... I swear, I was like, y'all were married in high school. Y'all dated forever.
Long time.
It was 3 years of high school, 2 years of high school?
It was we started, oh God, I think the end of our sophomore year, junior year of high
so
school.
like 2.5 years of high school. And then college.
And then we went to college together.
They went to college together.
Yeah.
It was a whole
mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it was this left turn that none of us were expecting.
No.
And so, and I think for a lot of people, particularly women, I think people can resonate with that. That you know what it's like when you have this plan and you're like,
oh my
clearly this is what my life is about to look like. We talked about wedding plans.
Oh my gosh.
We knew it was going to be outside barbecue.
Yeah.
And you're going to make us be you're going to make us be barefoot because she's that girl.
Yes,
and so I was like, what? That feels a little European. Okay. So, and then it was a left turn for all of us. And I think it's interesting how that disappointment led to such a divine decision. So you were running from that.
Yeah.
Thought you were just escaping.
Yeah.
And then what happened in D.C.?
And then I ended up staying 13 and a half years.
13 years.
Yeah. I really thought 1 year I'm going to go. Because we went to college together. Our college had only like 7 black people. So everybody knew each other.
Y'all were 2 of 7.
So it was
and y'all were in like brother sister fraternity sorority. It was so much,
it was too much
interconnection.
It was too
I know.
much.
You just had to leave.
I felt like if I leave, then it would give time for life to happen. And I remember when I made the decision, I remember my parents were like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm moving to DC."
Bye.
And I told them I was joining AmeriCorps Vista. Now, mind you, I didn't know nothing about AmeriCorps.
Yes.
I didn't know where I was going to be working.
Right.
I didn't know where I was going to be living. Yes. It was so many, but I had to go.
Right.
And I just really thank the Lord for protecting my foolishness, because I wouldn't recommend to anyone that you move to a different state and you don't
after you
know.
break up with somebody.
Listen, after you break up with somebody and running.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I see how God used that, because when I left Dallas, I needed, a fresh start. And he really provided that for me. Like, I remember days when I was just crying because I was far. 1,368 miles to be exact. Yeah. And I remember just like, what did I do? What was the plan? And I remember God just opening doors, just the favor of the Lord. Yeah. So I did my little Vista term for a year. In the middle of that, life happened here in Dallas. So one of my most favorite aunts passed away, and my brother needed a kidney for a kidney transplant. Like, just stuff was happening.
Yeah.
And the Lord was like, you are right where you're supposed to be. You're right. Because I tried to rescue, my brother, and was like, well, I'm going to donate a kidney. And I remember sitting at the table with, him and doctors and stuff. And God was like, I didn't tell you to do that.
Right.
You're
doing too much.
And I remember looking at my brother and was like, I can't give you the kidney. I'm not supposed to. He said, I know. I was like, okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
What is that? So I just think that the Lord used I got to get out of here to just bring glory.
Yeah, he can redeem the running. Now, okay, so DC I think of that season as like major identity season, because you broke away from some things. Do you remember a significant moment, turning point, something in those DC years where you're like, okay, God, I see what you're doing? I know you have a few, but I mean.
Well, one that sticks out for me is one, I knew that I love working with young people. I knew that. I didn't know how he would transform that being in DC. I mean, I was at the worst high school. Yeah. And I remember UNT came and was like, what is he?
We need to pack your bags. We were friends of little faith. Yes. We were like, why are you living in this basement?
And I was like, what?
Why? It was giving Eastside High. It was giving Joe Clark.
Because it was. I mean, going through metal detectors, it was bad. And me being from Dallas, ain't never been in that kind of environment.
Not Dallas, the suburbs.
The suburbs.
Right.
And my students, I mean, they taught me so much about partnering with young people and what that actually looks like and what that can feel like. And I didn't try to fix anybody. I was just there. I was 23, so I really didn't know what I was doing. and just being present. And I think that was a significant change for me, of just just be here. They're not asking you to. They just come into your classroom.
Yeah.
Because you got snacks. And you got good snacks.
Right.
Because you're thinking of them, right? And so, I think that was a big shift for me.
Big revelation.
And then, I would say finding a church, like that was a big shift, because this was the first time that I actually felt like I got to do this on my own.
Yes. Like, I'm not going to church with my mama.
And
right.
if I don't go, it's different from college, because I know people think, college. I remember the first Sunday I slept in and didn't go to church, and I kept thinking, right,
I'm going to hell. Oh, Jesus. He's coming.
Or somebody gonna know, like my mama gonna know, or somebody,
Yeah.
And I remember being in Maryland and and just like, that's a part of my life. I need to find a church. So I remember visiting churches
like an adult.
By myself, and like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And just feeling like I'm going to find a church where I can get involved, where I can do things. And I just remember how important that was to me. I didn't really know it was important until I moved away. Yeah. And so it was
identity is what I think about with that season, because when I think about your life, and I think people need to remember, like you, man, the plans you have in your heart now, they just seem so solid. It seems so legit. You're going to school for it. You've worked it out. You've planned it out. It makes sense. You were on a voice scholarship.
Yeah.
Like, here is this African-American girl at this very wealthy, private, predominantly white school at SMU with a voice scholarship, which we were like, oh, boom, they give out voice scholarships, because we've been knowing you can sing, girl. So, I mean, you were in plays and sang at church and all these things. And so we were like, oh my gosh, here comes Leontine Price. She's about to blow us out of the water, Yes. And so to see something I feel like not defined you, but was so a part of your identity, singing, just all of your vocal talents, to see that, like, not gradually fade away, to just fall off.
I ain't gonna do that.
Yes. Did that feel like, I think that, I know I struggled with that. I had a season where I thought something that was really a part of my identity just, like, disappeared without fanfare. Like, no one was like, we see that's not in your life. Like, no, I was like, wait, what? I've been doing this my whole life. How did that feel? Do you remember being conscious of when this huge thing, Shanterra that sings, all of a sudden wasn't a part of your life anymore? Because I think it happened in college, right? Did you get off of that scholarship?
It did happen in college. Yeah. I remember thinking, though, a couple of things happened. One, I didn't feel really supported at SMU, being a vocal major. Yeah. I remember my first year, I was the only black music major. Yeah. And that was voice and instrument.
School.
And when you go into a place, you look around to see if somebody look like you.
And they're like,
oh, don't nobody look. Okay. All right then. And it was hard. Yeah. Like, I love to sing, but the history of music theory, we went to a regular public high school.
Right.
We didn't go to arts.
Right.
Right. Doing theory, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And
this
what
is
we
not
gonna
singing.
sing?
Right.
So
right.
I did not. I was, oh my gosh, my freshman year, my first semester, my grades reflected how bad it was. And I remember going to the dean of the music school, of the School of the Arts at the time. And I remember sitting in his office. Y'all, he had my name on a Post-it.
Oh.
Like Shanterra McBride was on a Post-it. Listen, and I explained to him how this was really hard and I was really struggling. And he looked at the piece of paper. He said, "McBride, is it?" And I was like, "Yes." And I poured out, and I was ready. I was in a posture to receive.
Yes.
This joker looked at me and said, "Well, Southern Methodist University is not for everyone."
Ah, well, okay.
And he sat back in his chair, and I was like, "That's
your feedback."
Okay.
All right then.
And I just remember leaving feeling defeated. And I found the only black woman that I knew that worked on the campus, and she was in housing and residence life. And I was like, I got to transfer. She was like, why? I said, because Dean Benelli, I think he did and gone, but he told me, well.
Sorry, Dean Benelli's family.
Yeah. But I was like, and I told her what happened. And she said, "Do you want to leave?" And I was like, "No, but I cannot stay in that." And she said, "Well, let's find you something else." So I remember going to the Learning Center, and I remember talking to my academic counselor. I remember all of that. And I knew that I could still sing, I just wouldn't be singing that.
Yeah. And it didn't have to be in an academic setting. And so, yeah.
Totally okay with that.
I thought that was so big. I thought it was brave because you can, like I said, think your life is mapped out. And the people around you think they've mapped out your life.
Oh, sure.
And then you just like,
ain't gonna do that.
Yeah.
No.
And so I think it's important for people to be willing to let go of what's not serving God's purpose in your life anymore, because sometimes he uses things just to get you to a point. Oh, yeah. Because how would you be going to SMU? Yeah. So expensive. Yeah. And so like, he was like, I'm using that for entry into this place. That's not where I'm going to keep you. Oh my gosh. It was so big. Okay. So DC, what was your next big milestone, you think?
Moving to California.
You did. You loved expensive places. Why? I'm like, why are you in all these nonprofit making $2 a year? You want to live in the most expensive place in the country. Here we go again in California.
Moving to the Bay.
I said, Chan, you were passing Texas.
I said the same thing. You flying over. Yes.
3,000 miles ago. Yes. And what was that move about?
I got offered the opportunity to be an assistant principal. And this was like, I had never worked in one school. I worked in nonprofit forever. And then, I started speaking and doing things on my own. But I would go to this school pretty much every year. I would do my talks and, meet with the students. And every time I would go, the principal would take me out to dinner. And he was like, I want you to work in my school. And I was like, no. Why would I leave D.C.? Why would I leave, especially to come to Palo Alto.
Yeah. Privileged kids. They don't need me.
They don't. Why would I do
Oh, but
that?
They needed you.
Oh, but I loved it.
But they needed you.
I remember he called one because I was praying about it, and things were not falling apart, but might as well in D.C. And it was just like, I knew my time was coming to an end, but I didn't know, I couldn't see what was next. And this guy, I remember I was driving in Silver Spring, and he called me. And this time I said, what do you want me to do? And he was like, I don't know. We just can create something. Right. Yeah. Right. And so they created, I was the assistant principal of student life. They created a job for me. And I left what I've known for 13 and a half years and moved to the Bay. And I was like, okay, Lord, here we go. We're going to California.
The other coast. Yeah.
Never.
What would you say is your biggest, I know there's so many. I just think, anyway, whatever. I know too much. But it's just seeing that thread now, thinking like, oh my gosh, you were setting this all up. But what is one big moment or aha revelation or whatever that you may have learned about yourself or God during that season?
Don't be afraid to go. Don't be afraid to leave.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I can't remember if this happened in California or I can't remember, but I do recall, because we stress out so much about how this gonna work, how we gonna do this, how this gonna work, Lord, how we gonna. Yeah. And one day, I was probably crying out to the Lord, but I was just like, how we gonna do that? And the Lord said, switch it around, and I was like, what? He said, you focus on the who, I got the how. Same 3 letters. Yeah. Just switch your focus. Yeah. And so the more I focused on the who,
and not the how.
The
same 3 letters.
Listen.
That might be a t-shirt.
Listen. Just switch them around. And I remember.
That's good.
Changing my focus. I remember changing from how this going to work. I'm not a planner. So to people who are planners, fantastic. I am not. I will leave.
Get up and go.
I will go. Yeah. I will just trust that a mattress is going to be laying out. But I will jump. If the Lord says jump, I'm okay, fine. Yeah. But I trusted that in that moment, I needed more of a how, because I knew people were going to ask questions, and I didn't have the answers. Right. And so I was stressing. I was stressing. And I remember the Lord saying, no, same 3 letters. Just switch them around. That's
so good. What a good question for us to be asking, not what we want to accomplish or how we're going to get there, but who we're serving.
That's it.
Man, that's everything right there. That's love God, love people. He's like, just worry about the people I'm sending you to serve, and I'll work out the logistics. Yeah. And I think it's been cool to see your willingness to just do whatever so that you can do what God's asked you to do, because you have lived in some places. I'm like, oh, we on top of somebody's house? Where are we right now? Are we under somebody's house? You've been on top of somebody's house. You've been under somebody's house, attic, basement. And it's like, okay, whatever. I'm here. And to see, listen, the affirmation of calling on your life for impacting young people is so special to see him allow you to thrive in urban, predominantly minority areas, and then on the other coast in suburban, wealthy, predominantly majority children who needed you maybe in different ways but for the same reasons.
Yeah.
And how affirming is that, just to see the hand of God, like, consistent. It's the epitome of the who and not the how, or not the where.
Yeah.
That's so good.
And it's
That's
funny
good.
that you say that, because, you know, I've been thinking, like, now what?
Yeah.
because moving back to Dallas was not a part of my plan.
Right.
Right. And so to be here, and I'm like, I really felt like I was making more of an impact, you know, in either DC or in California. And now being back here, I'm just like, now what we doing?
Right.
What's happening?
Yeah.
But I tell people all the time, young people want to be seen and heard, loved and liked. And that has nothing to do with socioeconomics. It has nothing to do with their parents. It's truly them.
It's universal.
And so partnering with young people in the DMV, and then being able to move to Northern California and partner with young people
and see
there,
the same heart needs.
Man,
that's so good.
It blows my mind.
I love it, because I've been on this big thing lately about how calling and purpose are not about platform, and they're not about zip code. They're not about a whole lot of things that we try to confine them to. And I think it's just been wonderful to see you yield to God in all of these different environments and scenarios, and taking girls around the world. It is just
amazing.
Oh my gosh. We have to do a part 2. Okay, but before we end this episode, I have to get to this latest season of life.
Oh gosh.
I'm not crying, because here we are in our 40s, have lived life a certain way. By the way, I could do a whole episode on how you thrive as a single woman, because watching you grow in, like, genuine contentment, watching you make some stumbles, we all do in relationships, and then be like, why am I doing this? My life is great the way it is. And so that's been beautiful, just to see that and see you be grounded in that. But I just think this latest season is such that can go so bad for our faith if we're not grounded. So tell us about the last year of life.
So about a year ago, I think it's a year. It's been a year. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and it came out of nowhere.
Right. We were like, what? How do you get that?
How? When? How? Yeah. Because normally, when people are diagnosed, they're in their early 20s, and I'm about to tip out of the 40s. Right. So it was a shock, but I think, knowing your body and paying attention to what's going on, I started having these tingling things that happen on the left side of my head all the way to the left side of my body. And I go to a church full of senior saints, and I just love them. But to them, everything is stress related.
Yeah. They're like, you just need a nap.
You need a nap. You just stressed out. I was writing a book, and they're like, you just stressed out. I was like, I know stress, and this ain't it. Right. Yeah. And so paying attention to what was going on. So I went to my doctor, and I remember my doctor saying, Shanterra, I believe you. And I just started crying.
Just to feel heard.
Because it's invisible.
Yeah.
And you can't see it. So me there was nothing I could show him. I just knew how I was feeling.
Yeah.
And for him to say, I believe you, oh my God, that was like, I think of one, Black women just in doctors, period, and just not always feeling like they feeling heard, you know? And so I remember thinking, okay. And he said, we're going to go 2 routes. We're going to go neurology, and we're going to go rheumatology. He said, because I don't know which, lane we're going to be in. And so he referred me to a rheumatologist and a neurologist. I went for an MRI. Mm-hmm. I remember people kept asking me, especially before this, are you claustrophobic? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't think so. Yeah, listen.
You need to really think about it.
I am.
You didn't know till you had MRI.
Girl, they put you in this thing.
It's a tunnel.
Listen.
It's like a tube, I know.
And I was just like, I ain't gonna be able to do this.
Right.
So I remember the lady, the tech at the time, she was like, you can come back.
Yeah.
She's like, doctors can't prescribe medicine. I was like, I'm gonna need a lot of help to get back in this machine.
Yeah.
When I went back, this time the tech was named Joshua. Mm-hmm. And I told him, and I was like, this may not mean nothing to you.
Right.
but
let me tell you about the Lord.
Listen.
I know he got a whole testimony.
I gotta tell you.
Joshua, we hope that you love the Lord, because I know Shanterra gave a whole.
Oh my God. I was like, I've been praying about this, and your name being Joshua. I said, let me tell you, I know God is with me. And he was like, okay,
right.
Do you want the IV? Or do you? And I was like, let me just tell you.
As Yeshua. It's also Jesus and girl, I know.
And so when I went into, and even the sound of the MRI, it's so loud. And I just remember every time I would get nervous, because my first MRI I had to do I was in there for 3.5 hours. And I remember every time I would get scared, God would say, but I'm with you. Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
Yeah.
And so anyway, getting the results from an MRI, then I had to do a lumbar puncture. And if anyone, it is they kept saying, well, do you have children? I was like, no. And I was like, okay, well, have you heard of an epidural? I was like, well, yeah. And I was like, okay, this is the opposite. We're going to take fluid from your spine.
Okay.
So we need you to be very still. Yay. Y'all. And so when my neurologist said multiple sclerosis, I was like, what?
Girl, what was your initial
The first person I thought of was Annette Funicelli, who used to be on the Mickey Mouse Club years.
That's where you went?
That's where I went, Jada. And I remember saying to my neurologist, I can't be in a wheelchair because I have to take my niece on a safari when she's 12. And he's like, well, how old is she? I was like, 2. The point is,
in 10 years, I need to be good.
Listen,
right,
I got plans.
Right.
And all I thought was wheelchair and cane. Yeah. And I just thought, oh, no, this is not what I planned for my life. And he was like, Shanterra, that you don't have to have a wheelchair or a cane. He said, I remember you saying that you move. You don't call it exercise, but you move. And I was like, oh, yeah, exercise is too much of a commitment. But movement, do that every day,
right.
And he said, just keep moving. He said, just keep moving. He was like,
oh my gosh, that's the whole theme of your life, moving. Isn't that something? That it was, what's happening? It's still moving.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, we're going to take a pause. Hold on.
Okay.
That's so crazy. I just thought about that.
You sang it?
It's moving. He's like, I need you to be in this practice, being obedient, moving. Sometimes it's geographical. Right now it's physical. Isn't that something?
That's what he said. He said, just keep
Keep
moving.
moving. Wow. So...
And the hard part about him is...
I know how we felt when we heard it. I don't think how we feel really matters. That's why I was like, what were your thoughts? Especially a person with goals and ambitions, and you probably got things you want to do for the next 20 years.
Plans.
Yes.
Because I also remember him saying, there isn't a cure for MS.
Yeah, there's no fix.
He said, there's treatment.
Yeah.
There isn't a cure. And I was so angry with God. Yeah. Because I was like, I don't want nothing that they got on a T-shirt. They got walks for,
Right.
I don't want no walk. I don't want no bike ride. I don't want
fundraisers.
Oh my God.
Right.
I do not want that. And this did not match what... Oh, seriously?
Right.
It didn't match. It didn't match it just didn't fit.
Yeah.
Like if I was going to get, for me, if I was going to get a diagnosis, it sounds so foolish, but why didn't I get it in my 20s, in my 30s?
Right.
Why get it?
Who gets stuff now?
Who gets stuff now?
Right.
And the dude said there is no cure.
Yeah.
Right? And so.
And it's life altering.
It has totally altered so much.
Yeah.
And I can't, you can't really explain it to people because every day is different.
Right.
Like,
you have good days, and like a couple weeks ago we had that weather. I was like, oh, Shanny, when it's cold like that, and
when it's cold, when it's too hot. Yeah. So being in Texas is just not fun in the summertime. It changes stuff, and you can't explain it. And so the fatigue that I have, oh my gosh, like last Saturday, I was able to go. We had a death in the family, so we had the funeral Saturday morning. But by Saturday afternoon, I was like, I gotta go home. Yeah, I can't. I have nothing left for the people. Yeah.
So, okay, final question. If you, and I appreciate you sharing this because you're still in it. Oh, you know, we love testimony after it's done and we over it. Look what the guy. You're in it, and you're going to be in it forever. I mean, here on earth. How would you encourage someone when that unexpected thing that you think is going to just shut you down or derail whatever God has for you? Like, how do you encourage yourself? How do you strengthen your faith in this season? Without a cure, without it's going to all be better one day.
I think, so God has taught me a couple of things. One is when I was diagnosed and after I got through the initial anger, because I was angry. I was angry with the Lord. I really this did not fit, you know, and I'm a speaker. Yeah. And so part of the symptom was also my word slurring. And so really feeling like, yo, what you doing?
Right.
Like, for real?
You messing with my,
For real. And so I think I was so quick to say, okay, Lord, let's get past this. So you can trust me with this. You know, we
want to spiritualize it. Yep.
Quickly spiritualize it and make it something like, okay, Lord, if you can use anything, Lord, you can use me and be magnified and all this kind of stuff. And then I was like, wait a minute. No, I ain't there. No. You know, but I think especially as believers, we want to be so holy so quickly. Right. And I still don't know what this is. Yeah. And so when I said, okay, Lord, you can trust me with this, I don't really.
You're figuring it out every day.
I did not have an idea what this was. So when I can't sleep, because nighttime is the worst time. It's like I don't have any other stimuli going on because your body is time to rest and relax. My body is like, ding, ding.
Yeah, like just, pain firing everywhere.
Oh my gosh, the pain. So to get to sleep is a chore. And I just remember saying to the Lord, like, all right, so I say you can trust me with this. I didn't really know what this is. Yeah. I didn't know. So let me get back to you.
Right. We're just going to take it day by day.
We're just going to take it day by day. And I feel like God is okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like because I was so quick, and I think even in me wanting to spiritualize it so quickly, I wanted to also not have it.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And so I think me saying, okay, you can trust me with this because in 2 months,
you're going to fix it.
My testimony is going to be healed. Healed. Yeah. And I believe that God is able. My belief. Yeah. I believe that he can use science. I believe he can snap his fingers. Yeah. And I believe that MS will be gone. Yeah. And I also believe that he can trust me with this. Yeah. Because I'm going to be honest about it. I'm not going to hide. anymore.
Yeah.
And I know that we don't say it out loud, but I gave the Lord, I had a timeline of expectation.
Of course we do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I gave him 2-3 months.
We
tops.
passed that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you still dealing with it. And it's progressed.
Yeah.
So what was 1 pill a day, that worked for about 6 months. I would say 7. And then I pay attention to my body. So I knew, I was like, something ain't right. And so now I'm no longer on 1 pill a day. It's time to discuss infusions. And so I am going to do a treatment where I get a shot once a month. And I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah. Is this my life? Where are we?
This is my life. But I still trust him. I trust him.
You do.
He can trust me with it. I'm going to be honest about the pain. I'm going to be honest about the fatigue. I'm going to be honest about my word slurring. I'm going to be honest. And so now I feel like what I'm saying the Lord can trust me with is transparency. Because I still got it, you know, but I'm going to be honest about it and not think the Lord, because I not think the Lord has abandoned me, or that He doesn't hear my prayers.
Right.
I'm now pay attention more to ability.
Yeah.
I pay attention more to getting in and out of places. I look for.
Notice everything. Yeah.
I notice stuff that I ain't.
Right.
Like, what?
Right.
I ain't care about no ramp.
Right.
But now I'm like,
how many steps is this? Right.
Listen, how many?
That's so crazy that, yeah. It's just like things you think you'd be thinking about in your 80s, not in your 40s.
And now I'm thinking about, but it's made me more compassionate.
Yes,
He's
does.
Using it for different ways.
Grateful. And I just want to say this as we wrap up this episode, that first of all, it's so cool to have an epiphany moment with you and just see this moving, that God is consistent in your life. Like, because you are obedient to move, you've been obedient to relocate, move. He's like, you'll be obedient now. Just the same obedience I've been calling you to is going to still serve you well in this season. And I want to say, as a friend, and we just talked about this the other day, that your joy has been so consistent in the Lord. And that does not mean every day is happy. But even when hard things have come, Shanterra, it doesn't take long for your spirit to settle with it. And you'd be like, God is still good. And for that, I'm grateful, as a friend, to see that. And the who is still out there. People listening now, there's going to be women that come your way that this is their story, or whatever health situation. And now you may have a different who, but it's still for God's glory. And so thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. That's it. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, make sure leave a comment, leave a review, share, subscribe, all the things, and we'll catch you next time.